To a Fox 5 update, a judge dismissed a criminal indictment against 6 Republicans accused of submitting certificates to Congress falsely declaring Donald Trump as the winner of the 2020 presidential election in Nevada. The judge called off the trial, which was set for next January, ruling that the state prosecutors chose the wrong venue to file the case. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford said he'll immediately appeal the judge's ruling. Most of the defendants in the fake electors case have been named by the state GOP to represent Nevada in next month's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.